The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Russell. Welcome to the Healing Light Podcast. I am a psychic intuitive who's been reading tarot cards for over 25 years. I'm also Reiki certified. Join me as I read cards, share intuitive messages, promote healing, and much, much more. Hello, friends. You are listening to the Healing Light Podcast. And I'm your host, Caitlin Greenglass. The Healing Light Podcast is available for download every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before I get to my topic, I wanted to thank you for listening. A huge shout out to the Paranormal Buzz Radio team, Shay, Deb, Allison, and Rebecca. And thank you to Spreaker as well. The Healing Light Podcast can be found on such platforms as Spreaker, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and many more. Send me your show ideas or the guests you want to hear from. Message me on my social media accounts at The Healing Light NH, or you can send me an email at thehealinglight1, that's the healing light number 1, at gmail.com. Also message me if you're interested in being a guest. And once again, for social media, I am on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X as the Healing Light NH. Thank you for supporting me. I wanted to let everyone know that I'm taking a short hiatus for a month or two. I am having knee replacement surgery, and it's a long time coming. I'm actually looking forward to it because if anyone's gone through that, you know that osteoarthritis is not fun. But I will be rebroadcasting encore episodes of my shows, so I'll choose the best of the best, the ones that a lot of people tuned in to listen to, and you get to know me all over again, and I will be back very soon. I thought tonight I wanted to touch base on the tarot. Now, I have been reading tarot for over 30 years, 35 years, and in case you don't know, my dad was the one who introduced me to tarot. He was, into that, and he was psychic. He had the gift as well, and so he had tarot cards, and I took it from there. I just became fascinated. I did all my research. So tarot cards, if you don't know, are used for reading. What I do is I intuitively receive messages and pick up on the energies for the person I'm reading for, and so they'll ask questions, and so that's how it's different from a psychic medium reading. With those, I'm primarily helping people connect with their loved ones in spirit. For tarot, it's more of past, present, and future influences. I've taught tarot classes before, and they're always a lot of fun. So generally what people ask me about reading tarot is, gee, do you think I could read the tarot too, either for myself or for a family or friends? And I said, absolutely, you sure can. They'll ask me, well, what type of deck do I choose? Now, there are all sorts of decks out there. There's Rider-Waite decks. There's all sorts of artists out there, tons. And there is a myth that you have to be gifted a tarot card deck. I have been gifted decks I have also gifted decks out to people. I purchased some in my local New Age store, spiritual store. I've gone to thrift shops and got them. And I've even bought a couple decks off of Amazon. So however you choose your deck, find one that looks good to you. You like the art, you just like them. If you're in, if you're in a store, get a feel for them, kind of look at the pictures, see which ones speak to you, because believe me, they absolutely will speak to you. Now, when you get them home, it's important to prepare them. So you want to clear out any negative energy that has previously been in contact with the deck, and you want to bring in positive energy. So what I do is use either sage for smudging or Palo Santo, and I light it, and you just say something little like, I banish all negativity from this deck. I bring in positive energy and protection, and let's have positive, reaffirming messages. And then there you go. And you can shuffle them however you want. Whatever feels good is fine. For tarot card spreads, if you're a beginner, I would recommend, say, 2 cards even. Just 2 cards to get you started, just to kind of get a feel for what it looks like. Sometimes 3. My average, when I do my social media posts, is I'll post 3. But I average, a quick reading is 5, and a more extensive reading is 10 to 12 cards. It really depends on how far deep we go. And there's all sorts of things about clarifying cards, and but you don't need to go into that. You can get a book. You absolutely can. I did have a book. However, to me, books are subjective. Yes, the tarot has a history, and there are some standard meanings to the cards. However, what you need to do when you read is follow your intuition. Meditate beforehand. Think about the person that you're reading for. Think about yourself, and ask your spirit guides or whoever looks over you, your angels, for messages to your questions. Now, I will say this, when I read for someone will ask me a question, and a lot of times I'll come up with a reading that's completely opposite of what their question is. The cards pick up energy. You have to remember that. So you may be asking if you're going to get a promotion at work. In the meantime, your teenage son is having mental health struggles, and he hasn't told you about that. And you need to address that first. That's just an example. And if you just need to be open and honest with yourself. And we'll get to what happens, for people who want readings. But for people who do readings, we just have to make sure that we have the purest intent. We tell people the truth. Sometimes when I read for people, it's the truth, and they may not be ready to hear it. It's just, and it's not all roses and sunshine. You just have to get off your butt sometimes and fix your life. And there's a blunt message to that. You did wrong. You need to apologize, and you need to mean it. Things like that. However, so we have in the tarot, we have the major arcana and the minor arcana. Now, the major arcana are cards that really have to go with circumstances in life, situations in life. Sometimes they are people that you meet in life. So I'll go over those first. And if my math is right, sorry, I did not count ahead of time because I'm not really good with math, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, something like that. I think there's 12. I'll just go over some of them. I won't go over all of them. So once you've done your meditation and you've laid your cards out, let's say you're just doing a reading for you. You can start off. I started off with major arcana cards. It was just, that I was just drawn to them. There's no rhyme or reason. It was just what I choose. You can start with major arcana cards because they're kind of the consistent, rather than trying to get all of them mixed in together. So separate them. So the Lovers, and a lot of the tarot cards that have meaning on the cards, what they represent, are not always what they are. They have double meaning. So the Lovers is an image of a man and a woman who are nude, and there's an angel above them, and they are holding out their hands, in awe, ready to receive. And that can signify relationships, spouse, husband and wife, significant other, partner, whoever. But it also can represent the different personalities we have inside of us, and reconciling those personalities and bringing them all together. So, wife, mother, auto mechanic, dad, then you're a son, uncle, lover, all those different roles. And sometimes it's challenging to formulate all of that into a cohesiveness. So basically you're looking for a message of what are your concerns with a partner in life, or, is your self-esteem and self-confidence lacking, and how do you bring yourself together? Another great card is the Star, and I call it, I nickname my cards, some of them, I call it the self-care. It just came to me that when she is pouring water into the river where she's kneeling, as well as on the ground, she's nurturing nature, in other words. So you nurture your soul, and self-care, I've always said, is not always about bubble baths and reading a book and lighting candles, although reading a book is actually a good thing to do. But it's making sure that you take your medications daily. It's making sure that you brush your teeth, you shower, make your bed. All that is self-care. Take some time out. Take 5 minutes to do some quick meditation, breathing exercises. Get out in nature. And, that's when you recognize, when you're doing a reading for yourself or someone, that they have not been taking good care of themselves, their health, or their mental well-being. Another great card is the Magician. Now, the Magician has all the suits of the tarot. So he has a wand in his hand, and he has a cup, and a pentacle, and a sword. I'm sorry, he's holding a wand, and there's also a wand at his side. So what I see the Magician as, someone who is the master of their destiny. And when I say master of their destiny, I don't mean that you are destined to be one way or the other, but you can create your future. So if I'm reading for someone, it's saying that you think that you're not in control, but you really are. You're the one who can create any life that you wish. It depends on what you want. Now the Devil. This is a card that's kind of hard to look at. It's my least favorite card in the tarot deck. To me, it's dark. The passion is there, so it could be something that you're very passionate about, or someone you're passionate about. But it also can signify someone with an addictive or personality or destructive personality. This is, when I see this in a reading, I have to question what someone's motives are who are around you and what their energy is because it's kind of a dark energy. So now when it comes to, passion, that's always good, but passion by itself can, and it's not paired with, long-term love. I mean, that just peters out after a while. So, I mean, sex is great. I'm not going to lie. I'm just saying that if your focus on this person is on the physical side, but you're not investing on the mental health of yourself or this other person, but you know that that's something you need to do, then, that can cause, unhappiness. But sometimes people just like to be passionate about someone, and then and they're not, they move on, which is fine. It's just to the extreme is what I'm saying. Okay, another misunderstood card when you first look at it is the Death. So Death is actually one of the best cards that you can get in the deck. It means you can completely reinvent yourself, like the magician. So it's similar along those lines. So you have the ability, though, you made some you really fucked up really badly. You said something to, wrong. You said something bad, hurt someone's feelings, or you didn't get the promotion that you had your heart set on. Maybe you are newly divorced, whatever it may be. Maybe everything is great, but you want a new adventure and you move, halfway across the United States to start something new. So this Death card says, yes, okay, so that is something that you're able to do to completely reinvent yourself. The death of the old you and the birth of the newest version of you, kind of like me, Caitlin 2.0. Some things will never change, and at the age of 55, there are some things that I'm sorry, but I'm not changing. That's what happens when you get older. But, I've reinvented myself several times. I really have. Okay, so the Fool. That's a fun card, but it's an interesting card because, it's tough to say because he's on the edge of a cliff. He's got a dog by his side. Is the dog happy, or is the dog warning him like, hey, you're about to walk off a cliff, buddy? And he's got his head up and he's got a flower in his hand and he is just happy. So the question is, do you hop off into the unknown, or do you take a step back before it turns into disaster? This is definitely a card. A lot of them are anyway, but this is one of those cards where you want to look at the surrounding cards and see what other influences and messages are there. Because are you being completely idiotic and doing something blind and, with that's going to be consequences? Or sometimes there's no safety. Sometimes you do have to take a risk because you don't know what's happening. I've done that before. Just applied for a position, and that was risky because I was comfortable where I was, and I didn't know if I would be promoted or not. And I was. I'll do one last card. There's more, but I'll continue this series as well. We'll go over more cards. The Tower. Again, another misrepresented card. And I have been guilty of this. But I really just did a lot of readings. I did readings for myself and to kind of understand it better. So the Tower is supposedly the worst card. Everything disaster, floods, earthquakes, murder, mayhem, all that stuff. No, again, this is kind of before the Death card. So it's your life maybe, and your life may have totally fallen apart. You may have hit rock bottom. That's true. or you're starting fresh and new. But again, this is your chance. This breaks down everything. Okay, everything's out in the open. Everything's out. You've done the worst of the worst, whatever that may be. And it probably wasn't even that bad. We tend to just beat up on ourselves way too much. But the Tower is saying this needs to happen. You just totally came to the point where you said, you know what, I've had it up to here. This is my limit, and I'm done. And everything just fell out. I can absolutely relate to that. So that's just a little taste of the tarot, and let me know, if you do pick up some cards and read for yourself or others. Tell me how it went, send me some feedback, or, just try it out and see how it goes. You can make some really interesting discoveries with the tarot. So, yeah, and they're really interesting cards, and I have the Rider-Waite, but I don't have the box anymore, but it's really great art, the Witches one. And then I have my own personal one, the Gilded Tarot. And this was what a psychic friend of mine, she's my mentor as well, told me, that you should always have a deck that's just for you, that you don't read for anybody else but you. So I do have that. So I use that just for me. So anyway, well, this has been Caitlin from the Healing Light NH, as well as the Healing Light podcast. So once again, this show will be available for download on Tuesday, October 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I will have some rebroadcasts, and hopefully I'll be back sooner rather than later. Thank you again for listening to the Healing Light podcast on Spreaker. Thank you to everyone from the Paranormal Buzz radio team, and I will wish you a great night. Thank you.